What's going on, everybody? On this episode of Terp Trends, we're diving into the world of craftsmanship with our guest, Jam Man, a Pennsylvania native who spent time out in Washington State before making his way back. He's mastered the art of both rosin and some culinary creations. From pressing fire to crafting fruit jams, my man's a true culinator, bringing passion to the garden and the kitchen alike. Tune in as we explore his journey, some techniques, and what's next for this multi-talented artist. This is Terp Trends. Let's dive in.
I'm the Jam Man. Man, I don't know. I'm originally from Pennsylvania. Moved around. Ended up in Washington area for the last 5-6 years. Did a lot of things out there. Got a great education, met some great people, did some great networking. Kind of do stuff all over the place now.
Yeah, that's sick.
Yeah.
So what was it like? What I think is always crazy is if you could knock down kind of your beginning story of when you were getting introduced to cannabis, what did that look like for you?
Man, I was always around cannabis. My dad and my uncle grew.
Word.
My uncle grew on our family farm. He grew a lot of outdoors. We'd always help him start stuff. We'd start in December and start all the start his clones or his seeds in the greenhouse.
Yep.
And then by May, they'd be ready to go out into the fields and stuff like that. And he'd grow them out amongst like the corn and shit out in our farm.
Oh, yeah.
And my dad actually grew his weed out on, he grew them out on tufts, like moss tufts out on our swamp in the bogs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was really crazy. His weed would come out super blue and like purple and stuff. And back in the day, you didn't see blue or purple weed at all. You know, you're talking like the 90s.
Yeah.
But I guess it was just from all the nutrients and stuff in the soils. And my uncle did the same thing. He would dredge the bottom of ponds and take all that and he would mix it all and made it own, living soil and his mixes and stuff like that before that was a thing.
Yeah.
But that's how he made all this stuff. It's how everybody did it back in the day. It's not like you could go and buy nutrients. And if you could buy nutrients, you definitely weren't having them shipped to your house.
Yeah. 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 Very hard to locate and just get it all to yourself.
Yeah. So we made everything ourselves from either the chickens on the property or we would go and dredge our fish ponds and stuff and mix it with our soil. That's how we grew all our fruits, vegetables, everything.
Yeah.
Obviously, I grew up on a farm, so we just grew everything ourselves. I guess that's where the weed came in.
Yeah.
They grew their own tobacco, their own cannabis. They grew everything. My grandmother used to make hash. Yeah, she made her own edibles and stuff like that. I got introduced to hash even at a really young age. And even like, I guess, what like the Frenchy style temple balls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
My grandmother would heat up old milk bottles and she would sit there and she would roll out the dry sift and stuff like that and make, hash maker wet, but she would just make blocks instead of balls. But, and then she'd wrap them all up and she'd leave them cure in the cupboard with her other stuff, for just months on end. She'd wrap them in plastic wrap and then she'd wrap them in like butcher paper.
Wow. That's so sick.
And, I mean, I didn't, I just grew up around it and I thought that was normal.
Right.
I didn't really, know any different. I didn't realize how blessed I was, I guess, as a kid to be introduced to it that way.
Especially being that young and having it so just intertwined in your family, growing up and then making friends and going into other families. I'm sure you're definitely like, there's definitely something different here. What was that like?
I grew up in a real rural area. We didn't have police either. There was no police. I didn't see a cop until I was like a teenager.
Wow.
Yeah, like our town's too small. There's only a few hundred people even still today as the population. So it's like, there's just no police.
Yeah.
So we just got away with a lot of things that we weren't aware were illegal.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome though. Yeah, that's good. I mean, I think every household should have cannabis more intertwined in their family and their upraising of their kids. So I that's amazing. And just having your grandma teach you how to like roll sift, dude, that's nuts. That's so cool.
Yeah, it was I look back on it now and I was very lucky for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. So when you're growing up then, because your main thing that I think you concentrate that I see a lot of is obviously your solventless, right? Is that true?
Um, it's become a big focus. So I
Yeah.
got into the hash through edibles actually.
Okay. Cool.
I've been a chef forever.
Word.
So edibles, so food and weed just became like kind of a thing. I
Yeah.
had like a speakeasy diner in my house before I ever moved out of Pennsylvania.
Nice, dude.
And it was all like infused. People could come and get like infused homemade dinners. I had like a little menu every day that people could order from, and
Wow.
I'd cook people up, and they would sit there and roll up joints. And this was in the titanium nail days, so we were sitting there, taking hot shatter dabs and shit off of titanium nails, and
What
so
did
this was,
what was it? The Omni nail that was like the medical grade titanium. Remember that? The
yep,
Omni
yep,
gang,
yep.
dude? Yep. Okay. Flashbacks. That's cool. So is that
Oh yeah.
more of like where that name kind of originated from? Jam Man,
Uh, So it came about because I always made homemade like jams. That was one of the things my grandmother did is she would make infused like jams and syrups and stuff like that.
Dude,
Um,
sweet.
so I just always did it, and I made like regular jams, and people would be like, "Can you make this infused?" And
Mm.
I started making that because I mean the biggest thing at the time of back then, especially, was gummies or brownies or cookies.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not something that people want to necessarily eat all the time on a regular basis as some sort of sugar sweet.
Yeah.
So people wanted a healthier alternative. So the jams came in, and then that's how the diner came about because I was always cooking,
Yeah.
and people loved my cooking. So I would just make infused meals for people all the time. A lot of it then was more flour infused, of course, back in the day.
Yeah.
Um, a little bit of BHO here and there. And then when I moved to Washington and was making the edibles there and learned about hash, trying to find consistent hash that I could use to make edibles from that was up to my standards was difficult,
Yeah.
and it became expensive.
Mm. What
So
were you trying
learning
to
to make my
source?
own hash was,
Yeah.
yeah.
When you were trying to source hash for edibles, what were you looking for?
I just wanted something clean. A lot of people, especially at the time, were into using just like the rosin pucks and stuff like that. They'd use their leftover press bags and stuff,
Yeah.
which is fine. I mean, use everything, but like, I just wanted a much cleaner quality, more full spectrum actual rosin.
Cool.
Um, I didn't want to use like leftovers,
Yeah. Yeah.
That stuff was fine for making, oils and tinctures and stuff like that. Making, rosin RSO and stuff like that. The leftover press bags are fine for that stuff, but um, I didn't want to use it for my edibles, especially I was using such high quality foods to make the edibles from. I wanted to keep the hash at a consistent basis with the food I was using. Everything I do edibles wise is all farm to table and homemade.
Yeah.
So
That's
I
one thing I
figured
noticed.
everything should be.
Yeah. Everything I've noticed with your ingredients that I see, it's very highlighting organic and everything like that, which I personally just it raises awesome in my head, So thanks for taking that practice on. But yeah, trying to source clean rosin for edibles, like you said, that would get really expensive.
Especially 5, 6 years ago, it
Yeah.
wasn't.
It wasn't.
Not everybody was making rosin like they are right now, so it wasn't easy to find.
Yeah.
And people were making rosin out of whatever they had set aside, because they were still figuring out how to make rosin. Except for, like you said, the really good people, but that got expensive.
Yeah.
Especially 5 years ago, rosin was real expensive.
Rosin was crazy expensive, and it kind of to me, it's astonishing how much rosin SKUs we have on each market out of the handful of years. To me, I don't know if it's alarming or if it's really cool. I'm still trying to figure that out because like it was just a tsunami of rosin or solventless products when before it was such a struggle to get it.
Hmm.
So it's definitely interesting. So did that push you more back into like the cultivation side of things?
Yeah. Especially the more I saw more people's grows.
Yeah.
Um, I just saw a lot of grows that were just
Mm.
I didn't want to breathe the air, never mind smoke the flower that was in it. So I was
I
just like, all
do.
right, if I'm going to use clean products for all my other stuff, I might as well just make my own so I know I have the cleanest product from start to finish for everything, and it all comes from one place.
Yeah. So do you have any special practices that you do? Are you more of like a living soil type of guy, or what are your preferences then?
I do everything. I kind of take everything I learned from my dad and my uncle, and I do raised beds. I still mix all my own soils from all my own stuff. I don't add any extra like outside nutrients or anything like that. Um, I do cover crops in the raised beds. Um, I just try and do everything as natural as possible. I try and replicate outside.
Yeah.
There's a guy right now I've been watching. I forget his Instagram name, but he made like a huge like train set table basically,
Mhm.
and made he made a replica of outside. He made like there's a stream, and he took soil from outside and moss and took everything from outside, and he's
Yes.
growing different plants all over it. And it's so cool to watch, you know?
Yes. I saw that too. Now that you're saying that, I know exactly who you're talking about and what you're referring to. And you
It's
see
like
just little,
Yellow Skunk River or something like that.
yeah, and you see just his little plants kind of placed across the stream and that little landscape that he made. It's really cool.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Yeah, that to me is really, really fascinating. You know, like it'd be really, I'm curious to see how it's going to come out in the end. And I
Yeah.
mean, I guess it's all a test, but I mean, to me, that's really like the exciting part about cannabis is it's like there's so much unexplored really still. Like we really know so little. Um, we have all of this awesome new stuff and we've come so far in 10 years, but we really know so little about it because we can't really do proper testing on anything. And there's still so much experimenting we can do with this plant and learning from it, especially in a medical aspect, you know. For me, I have severe nerve damage, I have stomach issues. Um, so this plant is something that's very important to me medical wise, beyond anything else. And that's really where everything came from, being wanting to use the cleanest stuff possible, wanting to do everything myself is because I needed it, you know. And then the more I did events, the more I met people who were just desperate for clean product and just really weren't properly educated,
Yeah.
you know, and they didn't realize that sometimes maybe their problems were coming for stuff that was on the weed.
Hmm.
You know, the weed became something that necessarily wasn't healthy for you anymore. um, there's actually another there's an interview coming out, I forget who's doing it, but it's about how weeds actually become something that's killing you because of all these spray packs and stuff that are out there. You
Yeah.
know, it went from something that was looked at as a medicine, then now it's actually harmful to you and can cause more damage if you have an autoimmune disorder or if you have nerve damage or seizures or any of this stuff. Some of this stuff can really have adverse side effects or complications, maybe with other medicines you're taking, and we don't know it yet.
Yeah.
So just having a clean product that's available to people that's not extremely expensive was really important to me because that's something that I needed. And the more I met other people who were just really desperate for that, um, really wanted me to do everything I could.
Yeah. Yeah, it is the nuances that come with, I don't want to say necessarily the culture, but the push that we have, this whole green rush. It definitely adds some scary categories associated to cannabis. Like some of the things like the terpenes, where are these people getting all their terpenes? Are they cannabis derived terpenes? Are they botanical derived terpenes? Are they just completely synthetic? And then we're adding them into exactly what you're saying, products that we're labeling medicinal and things like that. And it is scary. I think of that stuff as well, just the compromising that we could do to autoimmune systems when people are associating it to medicine. How do you think we changed that? And why do you think we brought all that in? Not us, but, it's in different states, it's in the industry, and people accept it. It's hard to find the outliers that are really pushing not to do these things.
Yeah, no, I've really been that's been a huge kind of like side quest of mine in life, I guess, is I've really enjoyed going to other states and just checking out the cannabis scene in every state that I can now because it's legal in so many places.
Yeah.
Um, and you know, you can literally drive around the country and go check out the cannabis scene in most of the states now. You know, there's something going on in almost every state. There's some kind of event. You can go to dispensaries, talk to people, check out their stuff, you know, and it's really neat to see. Um, but it's also, you see some really scary things. You know, I see it in every state, even Washington and California and Oregon that are, you know, known for just having the best. You see these companies that are doing sprayed weed and they're selling some really bad stuff, and they're pushing it off as high end stuff, and it's really crazy to me how they can get away with it.
Yeah.
Um, and um, I don't. The only way really to combat it is education.
Yeah. No,
There needs to be some sort of like, and there's starting to be more events now that people are going around the country. Um, that Pella Polari,
yeah.
he's out of New England, you know, he does events all over the country, and his events are phenomenal. I highly recommend anybody, even if you don't want to make your own hash, if you just want to know about hash, to go to one of those events.
Sweet.
Because I mean, I feel that way about anything you put into your body, you should know the process of how it's made from start to finish.
Yeah.
I mean, I just firmly believe that it's the only way that you're going to get healthy. You know, I don't think cannabis is any different than our food. It's something that we consume and put into our body. And if you want it to be healthy for you, then you want the best possible, cleanest product you can get.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, especially if we're putting it against high levels of heat and combustion. Even that
Yeah.
science of what's to come with that isn't even out yet, you know?
No. Oh, that's a whole nother thing. I talk to people about that all the time. You know, just because it's a food derived terpene, yeah, it's okay to eat. That doesn't mean it's okay to set on fire.
Yeah.
Once you set it on fire, you just made a chemical reaction, and it's no longer that lemon terpene anymore. You just created something else, and you have no idea what's happening when you inhale that. You know, we haven't studied that at all.
Yeah. And I
And
think I
it's
think even the studies that have come out against like cherry flavoring and other flavoring, the molecular change that happens under heat, it's just like straight poison. Uh,
yeah.
and then we throw it in carts with like shitty grade metals, and people just inhale it,
Mhm.
you
Well,
know?
even the New York scene, like they want sprayed weed. They
Yeah,
want their weed to be sprayed with artificial terps. It's
I've
harder
heard
to sell your
this.
weed if it's not.
I've heard this. Yeah, that they have to spray their packs with freaking bubble gum and all this other shit flavoring
Yeah,
because they want it.
you
Like
you can
people want
have
it.
the most fire weed in the world, and if you go to New York and you haven't sprayed it with artificial terps, they'll tell you it's trash.
Yeah, but New York always wanted a nose. They always wanted a super sour diesel. They always wanted the train
Hmm.
wrecks and stuff like that, and they always wanted a nose. If it didn't have a nose, they really didn't fuck with it. And that's what I've learned,
Yeah,
at least in New York City. Philly was more about just quality. They'll kind of be open-minded as long as it's freaking good, but in New
the
York, they
scene's
didn't
so
care.
different
It's
between New
so
York,
wild,
Philly.
right? Even in Jersey, I mean, just those three
Oh yeah,
states and how close they are, like it's a complete different cannabis scene.
absolutely,
Well, now it's
absolutely.
more merged, but like back in the day, say like 10 years ago, like when I was kind of doing art, like growing up doing my thing, like it was so different and you had to like interact with it so differently as well.
Oh yeah.
It's cool to see it. It's cool to see the Jersey scene kind of pop up more. I'm waiting for PA to come around, but it's really cool to see just people able to talk about it more openly and not be as scared to network and consume because that's what this plant's all about. I think if we're gonna have
Yep.
bars, we gotta have the canna lounges and we gotta have events for these people. Why not?
They're coming. They're coming soon, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you so you've been around a lot. What kind of states did you find yourself in that you really enjoyed the most?
So the most surprising state was New Mexico.
Really? Cool.
Yeah,
What
New Mexico was, I would go back there anytime. They
where
had some really awesome weed. They had some cool old strains that you don't see anymore, like
yeah.
actual bubble gums and stuff. And
Yep.
I really liked the scene there. It was fun.
Yeah, now were you more in like the Albuquerque side of New Mexico?
I was in where were we? Um man, I can't remember. My buddy got a place. I went out there for Thanksgiving 2 years ago.
Nice.
Um, man, I'd have to look. I can't remember
Yeah.
honestly where we
Yeah, no
were.
worries. I have a weird story around New Mexico as well with cannabis, and it was once you said that, I was like, that's so bizarre. But it was really cool being there and kind of seeing that scene, which I did not um anticipate when I went to New Mexico to really even get in touch with cannabis, and then the way that I did, it was just like, whoa, this is wild that
Yeah.
that this is here too, and it's so cool when you learn about it in these spaces. It's like a kid again in some realm.
Yeah.
You're just like, whoa, this is sick, man.
No, it's like I said, it's one of my favorite things is like drive because I drive around. I'm not a big fan of flying, so I'll drive
Nice.
around the country.
Yeah.
And I just love stopping into random dispensaries and just like talking to the people that work there and stuff. And you get to meet the coolest people that way. You get to hear the coolest stories. You get to end up smoking with some of the most random people.
Right.
Um, we were in I stopped in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. 'Cause there's like a really big glass scene in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. It's like a
Word.
very like hippie town. It's a really neat place to stop. And like RJ Glass is there, Mitchell Glass is there. There's a really nice glass store there. They can grow at home there.
Oh, cool.
Um, yeah, it's really neat there. But then we were out. I met this one kid. We were out walking around, and he took us out to this field, like way out in the woods, and
Nice.
there was just this like wild cannabis growing everywhere
Really?
out in South Dakota, and like he claims that it's this land race Midwest American strains that are still just growing wild out in the Midwest that people just leave out there. And I mean, they were loaded with seeds. They were definitely not something anybody planted out there. Like they were
Interesting.
just wild plants.
Yeah.
But we gathered some seeds from that shit, and I'm gonna pop them this year. I'm excited to see what comes of those, because I mean, who knows what's in there,
Oh, that's so interesting, man.
I'm just curious to see if it's something we already have or if it's like, who knows? It could be some new thing or who knows what's in there, And
Yeah.
it'd be really cool if it's actually landrace. A friend of mine works at um like a lab, and I sent them like some of the bud that I had from South Dakota that I got from the plant, and they're gonna like test it and see
Oh,
like what
cool.
like the whatever they can
Yeah.
find from it.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what all that would detail. I don't know much about that end of things. I'm no science major or anything.
Yeah, but I
But
mean, that's so interesting just to see a non-manipulated sun-grown plant. To
it
see
was
to
really neat to
see
see. You don't see them much anymore.
No, no. The manipulation is just the key to everybody's success these days, but just in the wild like that. And it didn't seem like maybe, like it's not like someone would be out throwing cannabis seeds. I mean, I used to throw seeds while I was driving, just throw them randomly out the window growing up and stuff, but like in the woods, that's
This was a
wild.
good probably like 3 mile hike out to
Yeah,
like I
yeah.
mean we're in the Midwest and like so it's just open, but I mean it was a good 3 mile hike out through like these pastures and stuff and fields, and you could tell like it wasn't like planted on purpose. Like you said, if it was something somebody was just hucking seeds out.
Yeah. That's that's
So
so cool. I can't wait to either if you don't post about it, I'm definitely gonna reach out to try to just hear what those results were because I'm
oh, it's
super.
definitely something I'm going to be posting
Yeah,
about
yeah,
because it's going
please
to be an
do.
interesting
That's
journey.
so sick, dude. And then like just to pheno hunt those, if you can get some suckers and just see what they're doing, that'd be
Yeah.
that's cool. That's like a whole new pioneering journey in growing. You found a wild landrace strain in the US.
I'm gonna go back out there this fall, and I want to actually get some like because I didn't take my phone with me.
Yeah.
I want to get some like pictures and videos of these things actually like out in the fields and stuff. He said they've been there for years. He said he's been going out there and actually just harvesting them and smoking them for the last 10 years.
Really?
He was like an older hippie guy. He's a vet,
Yeah.
and just very old, kind of like hippie dude. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was, if I was gonna believe that they were gonna be land raised, it'd for sure be from that guy because
Yeah.
he's from the area and he said they've been out there his whole life and he said he's been smoking them for years.
Did he have it?
He just smokes them as is.
Did you try? Oh, really?
Yeah, he just harvests them and dries them out and smokes them as is. He doesn't grow it himself.
Did you try any? Did he have any for you to
Yeah,
try?
we
Yeah.
smoked some. I mean, it was
Terrible,
you know,
right?
It was like smoking your dad's weed from the 80s, you
Oh
know. Like, it
yeah.
wasn't anything fantastic. It was some like wild outdoor, just been regrowing for years kind of thing.
It would be really interesting to get a soil test from around them as well to see, just to honestly
What?
like try to create that soil as well. I don't know. Because soil's so important, right? We have sunlight and then we have soil. And the plants will grow so differently in so many different ways. And it really comes down to your light
Oh yeah.
exposure, your heads, and how they're bringing in these rays, and then also your soil. So it'd be cool if these things were growing there for years, like years and years, generations. Like, I wonder what that soil's looking, because it has to be pretty strong.
That's a good idea. I'll have to get a sample of the soil when I go back out.
Yeah, sometimes I'll do that. I'll just it's like, and it's really weird, but like to see like the water sources, like pool, like from like what's this water looking like? What is this soil looking like? But I'm like sometimes a nerd when it comes to that stuff. It's just interesting to me on how these plants can grow so differently with such little or different inputs.
Oh, it's so fascinating how much, like I said, we still have so much to learn from this plant.
Yeah. Yeah, that's sweet, man. So what do you have going on? So you're in Washington, right? And you spent years there. Did anything draw you there for a certain reason, or you just kind of threw the dart on the map?
That's just where the wind took me, I guess.
Word.
I got sick of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, dude.
Just very, kind of old school thinking, especially back
And this was years ago.
2017 and
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly. Way different than
Yeah.
what it is now. So,
Oh God, yeah. This was before it was medical and like they were kind of talking about it, and they
yeah.
were, not many places were legal. Driving across the country was much different back in 2017 than it is now,
Yeah. Oh yeah, I do.
Uh,
I do.
um, um, so I just kind of left and just wandered about
Yeah.
for like 2 weeks and ended up in Portland for like a week or two, and then ended up in Tacoma, Washington, and just kind of fumbled my way around for a while and kind of got my footing and built a whole new life for myself, and
Yeah.
um, got, like I said, a great education because it was back then everything was legal. Like said, you could go get a job at a farm easy. You could go work in a processing lab. You could, I mean, hash wasn't that big at the time.
Yeah.
A couple of my friends were making it at home and stuff, but people, I mean, I knew people that had full like closed loop systems in their garages back then.
Yeah, right? Not many
So
people.
like
Yeah.
I was helping people do everything, and I got to learn how to do everything from A to Z, to packing to going to doing vendor days for farms and
Sick,
stuff.
dude.
Like, got a really broad education in the cannabis field pretty easily in Washington that was not available here at the time, which really expanded what I was doing with my stuff. Nobody was really doing any kind of like infused dinners even in Washington at the time.
Word.
Um, so like, and that was my big thing, is I wanted it to move to Washington. I was opening up like a cafe lounge,
Word.
not realizing that wasn't legal. I just like,
Yeah,
I was
okay.
like, that was my big goal. I was going to move to the West Coast and I was going to open up like a cafe lounge. And I
Yeah.
didn't realize it wasn't legal yet. I saw something like Viceland, and like there was one in LA, and they did like a dinner pairing with like their, like, it was BHO at the time. They did
Yeah.
a dinner pairing with like dabs at like this glass show in LA, and I
Word.
was on Viceland, and I was like, that's what I want to do with my life
Yeah.
right there.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was like my whole goal. It took years to figure out how to do it, um, but it happened.
Yeah.
I partnered up with my buddy Hetty Broker out in Washington,
Word.
and we started doing the Natural Remedies camping retreat.
Awesome, dude. Yeah, I saw those highlights. I was gonna ask you about them.
Yeah. I mean, it's an all-inclusive camping retreat, 4 days, 3 nights, all your food's included. I was the only chef for like the first two, and then now we have like chefs for all the meals. So all your food's included. You get all this food
Oh
cooked up by
man.
different chefs from around the West Coast, and there's hash makers from all over the country, and it's just like, like it's an awesome event. And now you see events like that all over the place,
Yeah.
and it's so cool to see, because like 5 years ago there was none of it,
No.
and it's so cool to see that the educate, like you were saying before, how do we get people out of that? And it's education.
Just it.
And the more events there are, the more people can get educated and the more they can learn, okay, this product sucks. This one's really good. This is what I want.
Yeah.
Like, and you
Yeah.
can start weeding out those crappy products instead of only having your local dispensary to go to.
Yeah. Yeah, which I think there's a place for them, right? Like it makes people more comfortable up front, like being able to just walk into that storefront usually, depending on
Oh, yeah.
where you are. Some states actually have some weird storefronts that I've walked into and been like,
No, I love going to dispensaries, but in some states for sure, they're really an uncomfortable thing. There's like
yeah.
six security guards out front, and you're like, what is this? Like,
I walked into one, it was just like an old rundown doctor's office. They just had like a curtain across it and their menu was on a whiteboard. And this was like in like the beginning of Colorado days and stuff. And then you just like walk back in this weird hallway to like this kid just sitting at a computer desk with like jars, And I was just like, dude, all right, dudes, I guess this is how you're running it, but good for you. This is funny. And then they give you like a
yeah.
written receipt. Um, but I think, for education's sake, the more we can push cannabis in normal day lives, like have events, like you just said, like a cater event, and that's people now doing a normal thing, which is eating dinner and food that they're associated with their whole entire life. And now we're putting cannabis in the mix. And at the end of it, they realize it was a freaking fantastic experience, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's stuff like that that I think just the modern day people need to experience for themselves, not just the people in the culture. So that's cool. You're pioneering stuff like that. How is the success rate? How many years have you guys been doing it?
This will be the fifth year.
And is it always on the West Coast or is it getting any East Coast like adaptations?
There will be one this year. East Coast version of it this year will be the first one. Yes.
Oh, wow. That's very cool. That's very cool.
Also be opening up. Well, it's open now. First event will be next month, but be opening up a glass studio up in the Poconos in Pennsylvania.
Nice, dude.
Gonna have like different featured artists. It'll be open to like any artist wants to come through and blow glass. Like it's just kind of gonna be a community event space.
Yeah. I got my PA man, JD right here, dude.
Hey.
Yeah. That's always my go-to.
That's nice.
Yeah, dude. You know JD out of PA? JD Nance?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, he's anytime I wanted to get glass, I always tried to support him. And his wigwags were just really sick back in the day. So I like to keep that thing as just it's not my daily driver, but I always like to keep it there. Shout out to JD, man. So that's sick. So building a glass thing, when did you kind of get into that? I guess you've always kind of been in it since it's like the second hand of cannabis, is how we
I've
use
always been into glass. Bongs have always been my preferred way to smoke.
Nice.
Even when I was like a kid.
You like a tube or a beaker? This episode is brought to you by Waddle, the world's fastest and easiest way to review and track your medicinal cannabis products. Waddle offers batch-specific reviews, so you'll know what to stash or what to trash. It's exclusively available for Pennsylvania medical cannabis patients. Waddle helps you take the guesswork out of your cannabis journey and ensures transparency with the verified product tracking. Download Waddle now on iOS or Android, that's WODL, and take control of your cannabis experience today.
Way to smoke.
Nice.
Even when I was like a kid.
You like a tube or a beaker?
When I was younger, beakers were really we didn't really have tubes much back in the day. And I'm talking like, 2000, 99, Jerome Baker, was a big glass blower back then. Sky Glass was around back then. Illadelphs, of course, were coming out back then. So, a lot of that beaker style, that ball bottom, had a lot of zongs and stuff. I was into Sherlocks a lot back then, too. I had a lot of Sherlocks for some reason.
Word. A zong was the first bong water pipe I ever tried. And I remember looking at it, and my buddy did it, and I'm just like, whoa, dude, that's like intense. And then you do it, and I was just like, this is awesome. And then I fell in love. I'm a big fan of a straight tube. Just like an old school Illy straight tube, thicker glass. It's that's my go-to. So are you, now that you build a studio, do you get down yourself?
Um, did that mess up on your end too?
Oh no,
Um,
I got a message. Did you hear anything that went through?
yeah, I heard it.
All right,
Um,
or I can edit
so
all that
I
out,
mean,
which is nice.
I've I've done a little bit of glass blowing here and there. It's something I've always been fascinated by and watched people.
Yeah,
I've never really made much myself. Some dab tools, I've repaired my own stuff back in the day when it broke. I made a couple like bubble caps and stuff, but nothing
yeah,
fancy, just solid
yeah,
color, clear stuff. But yeah, I will now that I have the studio there. I'll probably mess around a little bit more,
yeah.
for sure. We got JFL Glass coming out for the first one in March. He's gonna be the first glass artist out there to kind of do the grand opening for the studio for us.
That's sick, dude.
We'll be doing a little glass show there. But it's gonna be like if people want to come watch people go blow glass and kind of learn and like watch their stuff being made,
Yeah,
then it's somewhere that can like happen, like you can come learn from different glass artists at different times. There'll be glass artists can just do random pop-ups if they want to without having to worry about like a crazy overhead.
that's
You
so
can show
sick.
up and make glass and do like a glass drop, and we're kind of centrally located. You got the glass shops in Philly, New York, you got New Jersey here,
Yeah,
Maryland and Baltimore really aren't that far, so
yeah,
New England's not far. I'm only 3 hours. The glass studio is about 3, 4 hours from like, Boston and Salem area. So
yeah.
Corning Museum's not that far. It's about an hour from the glass studio.
Dude, that's sick. I'm gonna have to come up there and see it. I'd love to learn more. I've only made a pendant, a little smoky mushroom pendant. But
Nice.
my old neighbor, like I had a friend and randomly he was like, "Yo, we gotta go to this homie's house," and we go and it ends up being my neighbor. And I get into his garage and he has a whole glass setup. He's got a couple torches, a kiln, and everything. And I was like probably 15 at the time, and just being like, whoa, dude, I didn't know like the people you meet that you don't even know right next door. And then I went up there a couple days and he was showing me, and man, it is difficult. Like keeping all of it twisting and at the same temperature and melting glass, and then like I didn't know it was that difficult until you try it, you know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's it's intense. That's why I love watching them do it, man. I can sit there and watch people blow glass for hours on end.
It's
It's so
mesmerizing.
fascinating to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's mesmerizing. So what goes into building a studio then?
Thankfully, I have a lot of friends who are own construction companies and HVAC companies.
Hell yeah, dude.
So yeah, we got it all properly set up. Everything's heat backed. My buddy works for a flooring company, so he came and tiled the whole bench. We
Sick.
built like custom benches, and he came and like put tile on everything and tiled the walls. My buddy came and put a little mini HVAC ducting system through the whole thing for us. So everybody's got like individual hoods. We have room for two torches. There's a lathe in there. We're going to be building a cold working studio for doing faceting and for doing engraving and
Wow.
stuff like that. Um, and then there's enough room still set out a few tables and be able to do dinner and like glass blowing things. They can make custom cups for like the dinners. Probably start doing events with local like microbreweries and stuff. Do like cup shows with local microbreweries and have different artists come in and feature different high end cups and
Wow.
feature different breweries from the area and stuff and do dinner with that as well.
That's
Um,
so cool.
there's a lot of big ideas we have for it. There's a lot of local artists who've been coming in and doing like local demos and stuff for people and stuff so far, and it's been really, really popular.
Yeah.
Um, I was kind of a little nervous at first. Like I said, I'm from a small town,
Yeah.
and the glass studio is in a small town,
Yeah,
um,
okay.
and so I was a little nervous at first. But most of the people in town are mostly old deadheads, it seems. So
Cool, man.
it's been pretty accepting so far. A
Yeah.
lot of people have been coming in and getting random things. I mean, it's been like people want like jewelry holders and like people have been coming in and ordering like figurines and Christmas ornaments and different
Really?
kinds of like glass ornaments to like decorate for their house and stuff.
Wow.
Um, so it's really like been neat to see the things that people want to order aside from just the focused on cannabis with it
Cannabis.
too,
Yeah.
you know,
What?
and to get more people into the glass, which is an easier way to kind of work them into being more accepting to cannabis,
Yeah, man.
is really neat.
Oh, that's such a sweet angle you're working there. That's amazing. What have you seen the ratio between non-related cannabis products to cannabis products?
It's been pretty 50-50, I'd say.
Yeah, that's sweet. And then do you think that
Um,
people are coming in and then they see the cannabis stuff and they kind of ask you about it or?
yeah, that's honestly, yes, that's been how for the most part, that's how it goes. People like ask for other things, and they're just fascinated that there's a glass blowing studio because it's something new in the town. There's not much here.
Yeah.
Um, and so they're just fascinated with anything new, and they come check it out, and they'll see some of like the bong sitting up there and stuff like that, and like some of the spoons,
Yeah.
and that's how you find out that they like are a deadhead or some old hippie, because you wouldn't have guessed looking at them. You
Okay.
think they're just old some conservative farmer, and they'll be like, "Oh, I had one of those back in the day," and you're like, "What?"
Yeah.
Like,
Huh?
like
Yeah.
I would have never guessed, you know. And met some guy the other day. He's an old vet from Vietnam, and he has seeds that he brought back from Hawaii from the 80s. You know, and
Nice.
he still randomly pops them out on his farm and just like grows them out and just see he uses them as is because he likes that old school weed. You
Yeah.
know, like
Yeah.
he doesn't need anything fancy. But I was like, dude, I would love
To
to
hunt it.
know what your library is, 'cause
Oh,
what you got
yeah.
in there, you know?
Yeah.
And a lot of
Yeah.
it's stuff like all land race Hawaiian stuff that he just brought back on his way back,
And I mean,
you
that's how
know?
we got a lot of the strains with soldiers,
Hmm.
you know?
Oh, I know.
Like
And
soldiers,
to come
musicians,
across a library
surfers.
of those original strains is just like, oh my God.
Blessing. That's like that man, you were supposed to build that shop for that man to come through just so you could get, you know what I mean? Because every little decision you make kind of has its own little outcome. So to have, if you didn't make that shop, you would have never met that man and you would never,
I
that's kind
knew
of
him
crazy.
before, but I would have never had this conversation. He's like, he's an older guy and he's a logger. You know,
Yeah.
he comes in every day, you know, in his work boots and his, you know, his torn jeans, and, you know,
Yeah.
usually like you would never guess that this guy was growing and smoking weed at
Yeah.
all, especially in this area where everybody's usually pretty conservative.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it
Conservative
turns
blue
out this
collar.
guy's not, you know,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. That's awesome. That's so cool. And that's the coolest thing about this plant, what I've experienced my whole life, is you never know. But once that door's open, man, that friendship over that plant is pretty sick.
oh yeah, he wants me to like come over and like teach him how to grow better, and like he's like, how can
Yeah.
I make this stuff better? And I'm like, dude, yes, please, please let me.
That is that is so cool, man. That's really cool. So one thing I saw that popped up. So you're the coolest thing that I've been realizing, one, me being someone from a culinary like background as well, is flavors, right? So you definitely have a palate and you're definitely in tune with flavors. So when you're hunting for washing and everything like that, like I saw you just had a sumo orange drop and everything, what goes into your flavor profiles that you look for?
Man, I try and have as varied a hash selection as my spice cabinet.
Oh,
Um, I mean, you got to have a little bit of everything.
right?
Um, and I mean, I know like right now, yeah, I mean like the Z Terps, of course, are the most popular thing on the market right now. You know, like the Skittles Terps are fire,
Hmm.
and they're delicious. They are. They're really good. Um, you know, and it's like when GMO was popular, and then Blue Dream and Tang, you know, like there's always this like cycle. And right now we're on like the Z Terps, or whatever kind of candy terps. You know, there's the papaya is really
Yeah, these
popular, the Skittles,
papayas.
you know.
Yeah, yeah. What do
Um,
you prefer, you know?
I can't smoke the same thing repeatedly. Like I don't even want to smoke the same flavor all day.
Yeah, I
Like
get that.
I like to rotate, you know, like I want something, my mood changes frequently, you know, like it'd be like, you know, like I love pizza, but I don't want to eat pizza for 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, you know,
Hmm.
like um so I mean, like I just took a dab some super boof right before this, you know, and then like
Nice,
I'll
nice.
probably like,
That's a big one coming around too, the booth or the super booth I've been
yeah,
hearing.
another, you know, that
That's another.
orangey candy terp.
Yep, yep.
And it's delicious. They are, you know, but I kind of spaced it out. It's like eating candy all the time, you know? Like I don't want to just sit there and eat Skittles all day long, you know, but
Yeah.
fucking I want a cheeseburger sometimes or, you know, or a
Yeah.
hoagie, you know?
Yeah. 100%. Do you think you're more of this like this live rosin craze that we're going through, or do you like more of kind of the cured variations of like some sift or some melt?
I mean, I feel like if you're anybody who really loves weed, how do you pick one?
Yeah.
You know, like how do you I have a hard time saying I like one more than the other.
Yeah.
Um I mean, I guess just regular old killed cure will always have like my heart. That'll always be my favorite, I guess. That'll be
Yeah.
my go-to. But like, you know, like I love dabbing melt. I like old school hash. I still love smoking just straight flower and taking bong rips all day.
Right.
Um, it's so hard. I just like I want good weed. At the
Yep.
end of the day, that's all I want. I want really good weed. I don't care.
That's how you know you're
Like,
that's how
yes,
you know you're from PA, dude.
yeah, there's certain terps I like. And there's certain terps like you know I'm not the biggest fan of everything, but if it looks really fire and it smells really fire, I'm gonna try it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I might go, oh, I don't like that one. I'm not gonna smoke it again, or that high wasn't the best. You know, like so I'm not gonna. I probably won't smoke it again. But um, and I mean I've only come across maybe a couple strains that are that way.
Yeah.
Like I'm not a big fan of Dosey Do. I don't
Yeah.
like Mac or like the
Word.
Miracle,
Yeah.
any of those. Like I don't like any of those strains really. Um,
Why is that?
I don't know. It's just the terpene profile. I just don't
Yeah.
like the terpene profile.
Yeah.
That's
I
it.
can see that. The Mac's
Um,
real strong to me too. I got a homie, he's
yeah,
got like the original, what was it, Capillator that came out with the Mac, so he got like original cut from them, and it's too strong for me, you know. It looks
yeah,
beautiful. It's a beautiful
yeah, yeah.
plant, but yeah, the terp
It's
profile doesn't
fantastic.
fit.
It's fantastic flower. It's
Yeah.
fantastic all around. Hash, everything. It's just not my terpene profile. And it's the same with the I mean, even like going back like Afghani, like
Yeah.
original Afghani and stuff like that, I just don't like that profile. So it's just
Yeah.
something I kind of stay away from. It's a
Yeah.
phenomenal high and it's great medicinally,
Yes.
phenomenal medicinal strain, but I just don't like how it tastes.
I feel that. I feel that. I'm more of a taste guy. I like to dry pull a lot of stuff too before I smoke it to see if I actually enjoy it or not. And there's been times where I
Oh
don't
yeah,
even like it, you know, um,
I'll
which
do
is
that.
which is good for non-consumers to try too. Like I got a buddy who's a non-consumer that I'm trying to like teach more terp profiles to. He's a non-consumer in our space and like in our industry, and I was like, I should just have him dry pull on joints, not lit, so he can understand what these terps really taste like, you know? Um,
I've seen chefs who don't really smoke.
yeah,
You know, they might eat edibles or something like that, but if they don't really smoke, they will like dry pull on things to when they're if they're making infused dinners. That's how they like pair the
cool.
terpenes and stuff with what they're eating is because they, you know, smelling it's one thing, but they want to know how it's actually going to taste.
Yeah. You being a chef, is there any preferred method that you like to use for infusions or cooking with over another? Like maybe certain oils, or do you like to do more of like a flour butter or like a hash butter or hash oil you're cooking with?
I mean, it really depends on what I'm cooking. I try and cook things as traditionally as possible.
Word.
Um, so like if I'm making you know, like Asian food, I'm not going to use butter, you know,
Yeah,
obviously. So I'll
yeah,
try, you know, I'll infuse sesame oil
yeah,
or
like
I'll infuse
infused
soy
chili
sauce or
oil.
teriyaki sauce or,
Oh,
you know,
word.
like
Yeah,
I'll infuse what I need for that thing. Or I'll try and make the sauce preferably from scratch if I
yeah,
can.
yeah.
um, 9 times out of 10, that's what I'll do. I'll make everything from the ground up.
That's awesome, dude. That's really
That way
cool.
the terp that way when I that way I can pair the terpenes properly too. Like that way if I need to tweak any kind of certain spices or seasonings to go
Yeah.
along with the hash, because hash can have a certain spiciness to it in and of itself. So I might
Yep.
need to tone down certain things. Um, so the hash isn't too overpowering. Because some spices will make it give it just more of that like hashy taste when you eat things.
Yeah.
Um, and you don't want the hash to overpower the taste of the food.
No.
That's the whole point, is you want to be able to taste the dinner, not the hash.
Yeah. I
Um,
like the aftertaste of hash more in a dessert rather than I would in like an entree style. I feel like entree style you really don't want to have that residual, but as a dessert it's
exactly.
kind of nice to have that little
Yeah.
flavor in there, which I've liked. Like a little like creme brulee or a little cheesecake with a little hashiness to it. It's really nice.
Yeah, it should be complementary, not battling each other.
Yeah. So you briefly mentioned earlier some of the reasons why you use cannabis, and you touched on maybe like your stomach. And something that I've been dealing with was with these terpenes is I'm finding that I'm getting a little bit of like an acidic reaction to certain terpenes. Have you experienced anything like that yourself?
Oh yeah. Um, those real like sour orange terps, like the grapefruits and the tangies and stuff.
Yeah.
I can't even smoke them. They will just immediately give me like heartburn.
Yeah.
Um, I can deal with the more toned down and like the more real orange terps, but the candied orange terps, they
Hmm.
just kill me. Skittles, I'm okay with, um, depending on who grew it.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, even then, like it'll just give me heartburn.
Yeah, like that's what I've been realizing. A lot of these, like, for a while, it's like these Chopmosa cuts or even these like papaya cuts that are getting washed. And a lot of them are just blends, right? On this market, a
Hmm.
lot of them are just blends of stuff. So I'm going through it and I'm trying. I'm just like, oh man, another one. And I've been trying to really just center down on like a heavier OG side of things. That's been resonating more well with my whatever this is. Going on. So that's interesting that you play on that too. What about your sumo oranges then? How does that play for you?
That's one of the orange ones that I very much enjoy.
Yeah. Wow, cool.
That's just a very popular one all around. Because it's like a tamer, gassier kind of like orange peel.
Yeah.
It doesn't have that. It's more of like a flat orange is the best way I could describe it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have that like bitey orange, and it's not a candy orange. It's more just that flat orange zest terp with just this funky gas behind it.
And is this your first run with that? Or have you been doing that multiple
Oh,
times?
oops. Uh, no, that's one I did a lot back in the day. I haven't done it in a while. That cut came from a farm out in Portland, Gadsden Gardens out
Word.
there. Knew that guy for a while and got a couple things from him. And that was just some everything he had was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you think
but
those
yeah,
terp
that one.
when you're going through it, do you think those terpenes got more dialed down the more grows you did with it? Or did it kind of stay similar throughout each generation? Depending on how many you
Man,
did, I'm not sure. But because it's
every
funny
time.
when you're breeding like candy terps per se, right? So when we're getting into like Mikey's a good guy, he does grape. So he's been breeding for grape for such a long time. And then when I'm realizing or meeting other people that are not breeding necessarily, but dealing with a candy type of terp, it's interesting to see how each generation or each different phenos you did or each new cycle you did and how they differentiate.
Yeah, for sure. For a while the gas was going away and it was just getting like all orangey.
Yeah.
Um, and I stopped running it for, like I said, oh god, I think the last run I did of it was almost 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
Um, and until now, I just did a small one, and it was definitely, I'd say more. I mean, the taste and everything was still there, and it was still what you wanted from it, but it was definitely not as obnoxious as what it first was.
Wow.
It was that stuff like when I first started doing it, it was that stuff like from back in the day where like you didn't even have to have it open and you'd be like,
Yeah.
damn.
That's
Like,
what
and
it
if
is.
you
Yeah.
opened it, the whole house smelled like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you can open it and like you'll smell it for like a minute or if you're close by, but you're not going to smell it if you're in the next room like you used to anymore. It's definitely toned down for sure.
And what do you think environmental differences play to that like, when you're growing it before compared to now? Because I'm sure you kind of had the same practices.
Um, a lot of it is I've just noticed that um, a lot of it of I notice this with other farms too. Is if you just run the same thing for a very long period of time, it just tends to get weaker over generations.
Yeah.
Um, so you kind of got to refresh that stock at some point, but you pop new seeds of it and you're never guaranteed to get the same thing over again.
Yeah.
You get something close, but it's never quite the same. That's the point I'm at now. I definitely got to just do a fresh batch of it for sure. Um, which will be exciting though. It's at the point where that's why I waited for like 2 years. So now it'll be like something different, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, a little better if you've been missing it to get that flavor back.
Yeah, it was fun to do one last little run. But like I said, that like that I don't know. The flavor was there, but like that just extra stanky punch just wasn't there anymore.
Yeah. What else are you running right now?
Oh man. I mean, speaking of what's popular, I did the sour Pez, which is the pink Pez and sour diesel.
Word.
Um, the Z Paya, because
Yeah.
you gotta have that in there somewhere for people.
Yeah.
Um, Sumo oranges, the super boof. My buddy just asked me and sent me a bunch. He sent me a bunch of golden goat seeds, and then they sent
Really?
me golden goat times hash plant, which
Whoa.
I'm honestly really excited for because I
Yeah.
hash plant's actually a great washer.
Yeah,
So I'm
man.
really excited to see how that comes out.
Yeah.
It was just like three random, so they're all going to be different. So I'm excited to see. Hopefully, all three of them pop. But I'm excited to see how those come out terpene wise because that might be something cool and different. Because I love golden goat and I love that terps, and you just don't
Oh,
really
that's
see them much
awesome.
anymore.
No, you really don't. Once you said it, I was like, whoa. And then hash plant too. That's just like, that's a cool cross.
Yeah. So, and it's the original golden goat from the original people. So I'm excited
Whew.
to get that going. That one never washes very well, but I'm just excited for the flower.
Yeah. No, just to experiment with it too. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, that hash plant cross. I really hope that washes well because that'd be some tasty hash for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, that's gonna be some tasty hash for sure. Now, do you do any type of testing, practicing or at all? Do you ever try to get into any like analysis or anything?
Yes, I was just looking for the card. Uh, I thought I had it sitting here, but there's a place up in Jersey we send our stuff to. Um, I met them at an event up in New York, and they will do testing for anybody.
Word.
You can send like your stuff you buy from the dispensary to them, and they will test it.
Yeah.
And they're just like an independent third party. They have nothing to do with like big dispensaries like
Yeah.
paying them or getting any testing done with them. They're just an independent public person, and they will take testing from anywhere. You just can as long as you can get them your stuff, and they don't need much.
Yeah.
um
They do
I was told
like tissue culture, sap testing,
they do
uh
everything.
everything. Sweet.
Everything. You can
Sweet.
take RSO, BHO, rosin. You can take them flour. You can take them. They're the people I sent the sample of that stuff from South Dakota to.
Word.
Um,
And how big of a
I'm curious
sample
to
did
see
you
what.
did you have to send them?
I mean, I didn't weigh it, but it was
Yeah.
like just a
Like
a
a
nug I took off of a branch.
sweet.
It was
Yeah.
probably maybe like 2-3 grams or something like that.
Okay. That's awesome.
Most of it was probably seed weight, but
Yeah. No, just because they're gonna run multiple tests for you always got to know to at least ask them like what's your minimum, because some labs will differ depending on the like how deep they can run the testing. They need different sizes to
yeah. They
run.
said they need like just like a gram or two of anything.
That's awesome, dude.
Like whatever you need tested, they just need like a gram or two, and they can do like testing on you and let you know like what's actually on there. If there is like mold and
Yeah.
funguses, if you got PM, like if you have systemic molds in there, if there's bugs on there, if there's fecal matter, anything on there, they can tell you sulfur, all that stuff,
Yeah.
all the pesticides that were used, all that stuff.
Yeah. That's so
And
interesting.
that's great for there to be somewhere that you said like the independent person can get their stuff tested.
They
You
need
don't
it.
have to take the word of the dispensary saying that, yeah, this is what the farm says is in it. You can get it tested yourself and be like, bullshit.
Yes, which I always tell people, hey, if you can, test it yourself. You know, I think that's the best way to do it. Um, that's awesome that you work with a lab. Do you have their name? Do you know their name?
Um, when I find their card, I'll send you a picture of their information so you can post it up for people too. Because it's, I said, I try and tell everybody about it. Like
Yeah.
send your stuff, get your stuff tested. It's, even if it's, even if you trust your stuff and you know who you're getting your stuff from, it's cool to see. Like
Oh
you
yeah.
have all the information in front of you.
Yeah.
It's
It's
just
just
a
data.
neat
It's just
thing to
cool
have.
data. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
the more
transparency is
you know.
key. Yes. The transparency in this industry needs to be key. My man, how can people get a hold of the news to one, see your glass studio, come up, find the events and everything like that? How can we get them plugged to all this stuff? Because it's cool. This is really cool.
My Instagram's always the best way. The
Sweet.
Jamman OG page or the Jamman 710 page is always the
Sweet.
best way right now. We will be making a page for the Glass Studio.
Cool.
We're working on all that. We just finished it up literally like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Um, we've just been kind of still getting it situated and getting used to the studio. The local artists have just been kind of getting comfortable in there and messing around and doing a couple things here and there. But we're going to make a page for that, and we'll be doing everything just for that. And I'll definitely get that information over to you once we get
Yeah.
that all done. But yeah, my Jam Man page is the best way for the time being.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, you heard it from the man himself. Everyone go follow the Jam Man, and I'll tag everything on all my socials so you guys know where that's at. Brother, thank you, sir.
Good,
This
thank you.
this was sick. Just give me 1 second. We're gonna stop it. It's just gonna upload for a minute.